Well, welcome to another edition of What's Good with John and Joyce. God, we're celebrating a year, and thank you so much.
I couldn't believe that. And when you posted that, it has been a year?
It has been a year, and thanks to you, this is growing in leaps and bounds because I think people are looking for positive.
Yes.
No negativity, no politics, just 30 minutes of uplifting stories each and every week. I'd like to say a big thank you to all of our sponsors, Woodwinds Wedding and Special Events Venue and Silvio Sauces, thewoodwinds.com. Ascend Bank. They don't just see your accounts, they see your vision and ambitions. Ascend.bank. Moonshots, a vegan-based company that delivers the highest quality organic juices, coffee, bowls, and so much more. Drinkmoonshots.com. Linda Toscano of Caldwell Banker Realty in Guilford, Connecticut. With over 17 years of experience, Linda is known for her authentic, client-focused approach and expert guidance for buyers and sellers. Now, if you're thinking about making a move, Linda Toscano is someone you can trust. We're deeply grateful to all of our sponsors for their support and for partnering with us to uplift and enrich the lives of our listeners and viewers. I'm John Cadillac Seville from iHeartRadio with my buddy, Joyce Logan.
That's me.
Hey, Joyce. And speaking of buddies, I've known this beautiful woman for the past 15 years. I have two beautiful women here, by the way. And I used to train her over at the gym back in the day, over at Planet Fitness when I was the head trainer there, and we got a chance to be really good friends. And what really struck me so much about Linda is she cares. She's got a heart of gold. What she's done that inspires so many people over the years, including, with what she's done with her son, with Gavin's house. And she's the real deal. And I'm just really proud to call her my friend. I'd like to welcome Linda Toscano to What's Good with John and Joyce.
Yay,
Linda, so good
Linda,
to have you here.
I'm so happy to meet
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Same
Yes.
here, Joyce.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Because we're going to be talking, you're in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about
Real estate superstar.
Yeah.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
a superstar.
She is awesome. She cares about people.
I see your
that's why.
face everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I think so.
Right. Yep.
Thank you.
You know what I want to ask you about real estate, just off the bat? The very first house I bought, I was young. I was like 22 years old, and I was living in a really
6
bad
years
neighborhood.
ago, Joyce.
Yeah.
Come on.
Maybe 10. Yeah. In my mind.
Right.
And I was in a really bad neighborhood, and I really wanted to move to Brantford. I wanted to get away. So, and I had a real estate agent that was my boss's husband. Okay. Very nice man. He drove us everywhere. And then one day, I took a drive down a little cul-de-sac in Brantford, and there was a sign on their lawn that said, no agents, owner selling, and blah,
For
blah,
sale
blah.
by owner.
Right.
Yeah.
So I went and knocked on the door, and I fell in love, and I gave them an offer. And I felt awful afterwards because that poor man worked so hard.
Yeah.
And then I trip upon this house. And I always felt bad, for all the work that a lot of real estate agents do. And then, because you put a lot of time into that.
Sure.
What should I have done? Should I have...
Well, it was so different back then.
True.
I don't know. I've been
Back
doing real
in the
estate.
day,
I
Josh,
mean,
say
Back
it,
in the
say it.
day.
I started 17 years ago. We always had to do a buyer agency agreement, like a buyer agreement with your. So you sign something that states if you do buy something, whether it's with another agent, with a seller for sale by owner, that you would get commission. If the seller wasn't offering it, your buyer would pay for that. So if they didn't have that form, there really is nothing legally.
There was nothing. Yeah.
No,
I just
but-
kept apologizing.
Oh, that's good enough. That's it. It's not like you were going out of your way to, But nowadays we have a buyer agreement that we're legally not even supposed to show another house of someone else's brokerage without a signed buyer agreement with your client.
Go ahead, Joyce. Go ahead.
No, I was just wondering if you handle a lot of for sale by owner only, or is that happening now, or is that?
It's not the best way to go to sell your house.
Right.
You have a much smaller audience, and you think you're saving on the commission, but you're probably excluding hundreds, if not thousands, of buyers who would be seeing your house and exposing it to more buyers and getting multiple bids and probably getting more that you wouldn't even feel that commission.
That's true.
And then you
That's
don't have to
true.
deal with anything. It's
Right.
not just getting the house under contract. It's working through inspections and appraisals and all the other things that go with it. So it's a lot to handle. I mean, before I became a realtor, I sold a few houses, but never on my own. And even when I became a realtor, I even had my mentor help me because I felt like I needed, it was just
And there's
new-
a lot of
too new
moving
to it.
parts, Linda. I mean, real estate, people think you go out there, you're selling houses. They don't realize all the different layers behind the scenes. And quite frankly, as we all know, everybody knows a real estate person.
Oh, my gosh.
They're on every block.
Yes, they
There's
are.
a real estate. Why do you think you've been able to rise to the top so over the past several years?
Well,
'Cause
it took a
you're
long
everywhere.
time.
You've
There are
done very
agents
well.
who've done it much quicker than I. I mean, I had young kids, as you know. I was like, when I was coming to see you, I think right after that I got into real estate. Or I was like, I think I was studying for my real estate
Just
exam
about
on the
that
elliptical.
time. Yeah, you were.
So,
You were.
yeah.
You were practicing on me selling
Yeah.
me a home.
And my daughter was, I think, 2 at the time. She was
Right.
just like in preschool. So maybe 2.5, 3. But yes, I just determination. I mean, I just wasn't going to give up. But it took me a long time. When I started, it was 2009. It was the worst time. It was right after the crash.
Yes.
Houses were going down. I mean,
that's right.
houses were on the market for
Yes.
like 4 or 5, 6 months.
Yes.
So it was a difficult time for me. And then plus, single mom and, kids and it was hard. It took a long time. So I didn't rise that quickly. It took several years for me.
But you loved it.
I did love it. I mean, that's the thing. I always say, like, when people are like, oh, I'm so sorry to call you on a Sunday, or, oh, it's, I know it's Friday night and you're showing me a house. And I'm like, is this work? What am I doing? I'm showing you a
Right.
house. Like,
Right.
I'm in your house taking a tour. Like, that it's fun
Yeah.
for me. I mean, yes, it's stressful. It's the most stressful job I've ever had in my life.
But it gave you the autonomy because you have
Yeah.
children just to
Yeah.
kind of
I
make
mean,
your own
so then when
hours.
they were at, their dads on the weekend, I would just, open houses and just work. And then I'd get a babysitter at night, or my mom would come and help me in the early days when she could.
Right.
So yeah, I just did whatever I could. And I knew that one day, I had really inspiring peers like that I worked with that were top producers. And I just like would walk through the hallways of Coldwell Banker and see like their names like #1 this month, and that gave me inspiration. I was like, one day that's going to be me. I'm going to do that, you know. So I liked seeing that because I felt I think I can do that if I just give it all.
I always thought that was the coolest job because it's almost like because when you sell like a very expensive house, it's like winning the lottery. But it could be then a long span until that happens again. But isn't there
Yeah.
like a thrill to that? Like
No,
to
I
do
mean for
that
me the
closing?
thrill is always when I get a listing and I'm putting it on the market, like putting it on MLS and writing the description, and like that to me
You
is
love
like the
that
marketing
part.
part.
Yeah.
'cause
When you say
that's,
putting it on MLS, what's that mean?
putting on the multiple listing service where
Okay.
where it's going live,
Right.
basically.
So it'll go on Zillow, everything.
Yeah, at first it starts
Yeah.
at MLS and then it gets
Right.
put off to those third parties. But that to me is the most exciting part, is the marketing part of it. And then of course, like, just seeing my clients happy with the results is like very rewarding. But there's a lot to it. A lot of people think, oh yeah, you get this, big sale and you've got this huge commission. But that commission goes a lot of ways. Half of it goes to the buyer's agent and part
Oh,
of it
yes.
goes to
True.
your company, and then all the advertising that you do for the house and gas and all the things. I mean, and we can work with a buyer sometimes showing them 30, 40 houses before they buy one house. That might be $300,000.
Right.
So it just,
Right.
it's you just kind of you have to just take it all in a big wave. It's not like one transaction. It's like the whole.
You really have to have an even keel. You can't get too high or too low with this, and
Yeah.
just keep moving, because I'm sure there's a lot of challenges as well. You're
Yeah,
dealing with
there
all
are
different kinds of
slow times
personalities.
and yes, yeah, there are those, yeah. And it's like,
Right.
so I always say, like, well, at least it's like I have a boss, but then that boss, kind of I get away from that boss after if I have a really difficult client.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, there'll be a closing, and then it'll be replaced with someone else.
Yeah,
So
sure.
Did you have to be really good at math to pass that
no, because
test,
I'm not
though?
good at math.
Okay, that's
I
what
am
you
not good at
know.
math. No,
Yeah.
and I was lucky. I did pass it on the first try, and I don't consider myself very like studious or anything like that. I think I just got lucky. But no, I don't know. It's just you really don't have to be good at math. If you have a
Okay.
calculator, your iPhone, you're good.
Oh, they let you do that? You
I don't
have
know.
to-
They don't like my questions weren't really math.
Wait, do you have to keep taking the test?
You could opt to take the test instead of doing continuing education, but you have to do 12 hours of continuing education every 2 years.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get along with a lot of your
you.
fellow real estate people?
Yes, I don't think there's any. Well, maybe one very long time ago that that I worked with that was very difficult. But yeah, I really like all of the agents I work with, and especially on the shoreline. I know them all. They're hardworking agents, and they really do care about their clients. I think real estate has this reputation for being, I don't know, like a lawyer or something. Like they just like this negative
Like
connotation
cutthroat.
to it. Yeah, I mean, well, there are cutthroat realtors for sure. I mean, but that doesn't still mean that they're not good people.
Right.
It's like the realtors I work with, and again, I'm just lucky maybe because it's this area. I get along with them really well. We respect each other. Like they want to work with me. I know which realtors I want to work with. And as long as that realtor doesn't have an ego, that's it.
Yeah.
Ego is what causes
Well,
problems.
I don't understand this. When a listing comes up and you're working for, an agency,
Yes.
so your agency, and everybody wants it. Who gets it?
It doesn't work that way. You, the individual agent, get the listing. So, I mean, unless somebody's calling like Coldwell Banker and says, hey, I want to sell my house, whoever is on that floor call can take it, or they'll ask the manager who they recommend, and that manager will give it to somebody who they think is the best fit.
I see.
But for me, I'm advertising. It's word of mouth. It's referrals.
So it's your
friends,
name, your
it's
picture,
me, and going out.
yes.
And most agents are going out, and they are going on listing appointments. And usually we are competing against a couple of other realtors with different agencies. So then usually we know who they are too, because we're going after kind of the same area.
And Linda, you're very proactive. I mean, you're out there marketing yourself all the time, which is so key because there's so much competition out there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But you also have to have a lot of Teflon too, don't you?
Yeah.
You really have to, because there's a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
And because it's sales.
Yeah, I know it's tough. It is really tough. You do have to have a tough skin. And in the beginning, in the first I think after like the first 3 years when I started getting like more, I guess busy. When I would lose a listing, it was like I couldn't sleep.
Right.
I mean, it would keep me up at night. It wasn't just the money. It was just like, what did I do wrong? And that is one thing I have done. I would say to them, can you please tell me, like, wish you best the luck, but just tell me, why didn't you choose me? I'd always want to learn, like, what was it, and was I not aggressive enough? Did I not follow up? Did you not like my price? What? Just because I like to know.
Right.
Why they didn't choose me,
It's all about self-development. You want to know. And
it's a constant learn.
I think that's totally fair.
Totally. Yeah. I learn something every day.
So what's going on in the market now? What would you say for people buying or selling?
Well, I mean, it's funny because it is definitely low inventory. So you still are getting a lot of money for your house than you would, before COVID. But you have to have your house ready and put together. People aren't just going to give you top dollar for a house that needs maybe a new roof or, the tile is cracked and all the things. Like you want to just get it as best as you can. And if it's not in your, if you can't do it financially, do what you can, put the legwork in yourself, whether it's painting and things that are just more sweat equity.
Yes.
I find that a lot of sellers still think that they can get that top dollar that, maybe a year and a half to 2 years ago, but the market has softened a little bit. But as long as it's priced right, they're going, and they usually are going for over asking. So it just depends. It's just pricing right. That means not pricing high and not pricing low. Just that fair market value is really, in my opinion, the smartest way to go.
And it's good for the buyer and the seller at this.
Well, it's tough for buyers. I mean, that's why for a buyer, it's really important to work with a buyer's agent, because a lot of them think that, I'll just call the listing agent. And then sometimes the seller doesn't want to work it, with you handling both sides. Or if you're working with an agent who knows your area, they can talk to other agents and see what they have coming on the market that maybe isn't listed yet. So it's things like that. It's really important to have your own representation. And again, you're not going to steal a house in this market either.
Right.
Those are not the days.
Right.
So put in just try to do the least amount of contingencies. If you have a mortgage, and you're going to have financing and you want to have all the inspections, well, then don't give a really low offer.
Right,
Something's got to give, because if it's a multiple bid situation, you're likely to have someone who has cash or someone who's waiving inspections. So I like to work with buyers and basically kind of know what I'm up against, and then put their best foot forward, whatever that may be. If it's not the highest price, then maybe it's the contingencies that they have to not.
It wasn't until COVID that I never heard of people offering higher.
Yeah.
and getting into bidding wars.
Yeah, well, that's supply and demand.
Yeah, supply and demand.
Yeah.
I would suspect a lot of people want to work with you specifically because of your reputation, and they know, hey, Linda gets things done, because this has been hard earned over the past 15, 16, 17 years, and I'm sure that they. And you've earned that.
Thank
you've
you.
Earned that.
I hope so. I hope people know that I do, like, as all realtors should do, is put their clients' interest first. I love referrals and friends of friends because, I feel like they already have a trust factor for me. But, knock on wood, I've never had a complaint filed against me in 17 years. I've never had any lawsuit, nothing. Like, so
Bravo.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
great.
it's such a litigious world that,
Yes,
I have to
indeed.
say that for the amount of business I've done, I've been fortunate to not have to have that happen. Which, again, if you do the right thing, you shouldn't have that problem.
And you've been doing the right thing too. I mean, and
She
speaking
is,
of that,
yes.
the pay it forward thing. Look what you've been able to do with in honor of your son.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about what you've done.
This
with
has touched
Gavin.
my heart very much because you and I share something in common with that. But please tell us about your son and Gavin and Friends.
Yeah. So Gavin is 21. I can't.
God, how
believe
did
it.
that happen?
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. I think he was like 5 or something when
Yeah, when we were working together
Yeah.
for the gym.
So he's 21. He has autism. It's considered profound autism, even though he can speak. It's not really, I don't want to say it's not really functional communicative. It's just, if you asked him if he doesn't feel good, he won't be able to tell you where, or he just like would pound his head or, things like that. So, he would get into someone's car or walk across the street or elope and, just things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So before I became a realtor, that when I had him, he was my first. So I knew something was not right with my son. Like the development of him, it was just not, my sister had 3 kids. I saw what normal development was. And I just knew, mama's gut. I knew something was up. So fast forward to getting the diagnosis, that's when obviously fear sets in. Like, what are you going to do? What's going to happen to him? What happens if I pass away? Like those were just
yes.
Right?
I know
You just
those
said the
fears.
same thing. We were
Yes.
talking
Yeah.
about that.
that unfortunately is that's the stuff that keeps you up at night.
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
So that happened many nights, and I just couldn't shake it. Like, first off, I was very I went through all the stages, angry and upset and why me and blah, blah, blah. And then when I became a realtor, I started to think like, what, the best thing I could do is try to find a home for him that one day, if something happens to me, he'll be able to live, maybe with a couple other participants or something, and have 24-hour care, because he won't be able to live independently. So he needs 24-hour care, not one-to-one and direct, but in the house,
Right.
being watched. So you can't drive or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it started off like that, just me looking for a home. And we're talking like 13, 14 years ago. I mean, so I was looking for a house by the green because I live in Guilford, because I knew he'd never drive, and I wanted to make sure that, if I was even to live there with him for a little while, whatever, he would have this house like in a trust, and he'd stay there till the end of his days, safe, right? And stay in the town that he knows. Very difficult to find. That's what everyone wants, a house by the Guilford Green.
Sure.
But I think it was a 2020, I think it's 2020 or 21. These 2 houses in Guilford showed up on the market. It was actually in my office, and the agent told me about it, that she was working on it. And she said, I have 2 houses on one parcel. And she said, she told me the price. I was like, oh, I can't afford that. I was like, I can't even afford one house, let alone 2 houses. And she was like, well, I just wanted to let you know because I know what you want to do for Gavin. So didn't think much of it because I thought I can't afford 2 houses on the green, But then when it came out, the price was $740. They needed a lot of work. One was like, 1900s. The other one was 1910. No heat on the second floor, like just really rough, right?
Yeah.
But I went and saw them, and I thought, I could do something with this. And I didn't know what, but I thought, well, maybe if he lives in this home, I could live in the next home. He can have 24-hour care. I could live out in the other home. There's some separateness, but still I can watch over him.
So you started to get a little bit more excited about it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure, but Yeah, there was a popular property, but it was a mixed use property and like non-conforming. So a lot of people were, figuring out what they could do business wise, and I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to put any contingencies on it as a realtor. I was just like, I'm just going to go just buy it. So I ended up getting the house, and it turns out one was a 3-bedroom, one's a 2-bedroom. And I wanted the 2-bedroom for Gavin's house because I thought, it's bigger, but I couldn't do it because I needed a 3-bedroom for like a DDS situation when you do a residential home. If DDS is a Department of Developmental Services. What I wanted to do was have a home where I owned so that Gavin wouldn't be moved around. I have friends who have children who are in residential homes. And, if the owner decides to sell the house or raise the rent, then this residential home has to move. And then so they have to move, so sometimes they can be in Middletown, sometimes they can be in West Hartford. I didn't want
they like
that.
Continuity, familiarity.
Yes, and I wanted Guilford, you know what I mean? I didn't want anywhere else he didn't know.
And those of you watching Guilford, Connecticut, because we have people all over the country
Guilford,
about that, our beautiful town of Guilford, Connecticut.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so what I did was I bought the houses and not sure what I was going to do with 2 of them. I was talking to my son's teachers, and they were, kind of going back and forth. They're like, oh, we could do like some sort of like maybe a consignment store at this place. And like the kids could, like the special needs kids could work at the store. We had all these ideas, but they were still finishing up their tenure in school, and they couldn't do it full time. And I kind of needed to make rent on one of them. So that kind of fizzled out. And so I thought, I'll just try to rent the buildings out. Long story short, no one was renting in COVID. No one needed a storefront during COVID. And so then I decided to call Sarah, Texas. So the Sarah Foundation, they have another part of it, which is
they do
Sarah,
so much
Texas.
amazing work. Huge fan of Sarah, Texas.
Yeah, huge.
Yep.
So, and again, this was something, discussing with Gavin's teachers, like, what do we need here? Like, what do we need for there's what happens after they age out of the school system, which in Guilford is like 22. Yeah. There's nowhere for them to go. There's no day program. There's nothing. So it's like your kid has this, goes to high school and then goes to a transition school, which my son is in right now, Transition Academy. And then after that, it just drops off. And then they're home with you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing going on. So now Gavin can't be left home alone. So what does that mean? I have a caregiver who works 40 hours a week. So I'm very fortunate. So I can work because if she's sick, I'm home with him. He needs to be looked after. So, and I've seen clients who I've gone to their house and they're 80 years old and they've got their, 60-year-old child with special needs living with them. And it's a very isolating life for both, for the parents and the children. I call them children, they're adults, but, they can't drive, so it's like, and the parents aging. So it's like, they're not going out. They're not, she would have a babysitter come over and spend time, play a game with her son. And, we really needed something in this town and every town really for this population that is just been, I don't want to say forgotten. It's just the amount now of autism adults is just growing, and there's
staggering.
There's not enough services or places for them.
I think they were never diagnosed before. I don't think it's so much like the food and the air and all that. I think there were always strange kids in school and things like that that were really on the spectrum.
I don't know
that they didn't know.
I don't think so. In my opinion, I appreciate that, but from 1 in 10,000 to now 1 in 31.
Well, maybe they just weren't diagnosed.
If you look at Rain Man, right, that movie.
Dustin Hoffman.
When I watched Rain Man, I was like, I never saw that. I mean, even my mom would say she would never. What we see now is nothing like what we used to see before. Gavin wasn't like Gavin would be misdiagnosed. You meet Gavin for 30 seconds, you know that he has autism. So it's not like this high functioning type of autism that I'm talking about where, these kids, these are profound, these are children who, if someone said to Gavin, "Hey, come in my car. Here's a train." He'd
Right.
be like, "Okay."
Right.
You know,
He go right in.
yeah, he would.
Wow.
Yeah, no, my son would too.
If there was a fire, I don't know, I think he'd know to leave. You just don't, you can't leave him alone.
And that's on your mind every day, everywhere you go.
Every day. So that's really where this whole thing came about. And then
Gavin's house.
Gavin and Friends. So basically, I worked with Sarah Tuxis, and I renovated the building to the codes and everything that it needs to have that type of facility there. So it is a day program for adults with disabilities. So basically, 18 and up. I mean, they can make exceptions, I'm sure.
How many people can you hold there?
I think there's between 15 to 17 participants at varying times, depending on what they need and what their budget allows, because obviously it's either the state pays or the parents pay. Somebody has to pay.
Sure.
So they are a nonprofit, but there's the people who work there have to get paid. So there's an application process, and they decide who is a good fit for the program. And the problem is, though, there's a waiting list. At this point now, they're maxed out. And
I would think there'd be a lot of people in waiting.
There's a lot of there.
A lot.
And originally, when I did this, I thought, oh, maybe this is my mission. Maybe I'll just keep doing this and get another. It's just too much work. It's too much money.
Are you living in one of the homes?
No. So right now, Gavin and Friends is there, and Sarah Tuxis runs the program.
Oh, okay.
And they do their thing. And then the house next to it is currently under construction, and that will be Gavin's future residential home. So he basically he'll live with me until that time is ready. I don't know when it'll be, but for me, I want it done because again, that what happens if something happens to me. I want it done, and I don't care if it sits there and doesn't get used for 5 years. I think maybe I'll move in there with him, so he gets acclimated to the home, and then I'll just live there until the program's set up where there's 24 hours care for him. But it'll be right next door to Gavin and Friends. And then, when he'll go from the house and go to Gavin and Friends during the day. And Gavin and Friends, the program is awesome. I mean, people can go on the Sarah Tuxis website or Sarah Foundation. They can find about it. They also have a similar program in Westbrook called the Harbor. And
Yes, I've
that's
heard
a
of that.
bigger facility. Yeah. And that's kind of what I modeled Gavin and Friends after. Like they took me to that facility, and I was totally impressed.
And is the harbor for older?
It's the same. Yeah, it's for adults with developmental disabilities. It's a huge building.
How many of
bigger
these
than mine.
actual facilities exist?
Well, this
Well,
is
in the
the only
Connecticut
one.
area.
Gavin and Friends, I'm sure there's more. I just don't know. I think there's one in Wallingford. I don't know if it's called the Arc or something, which is a big one.
So
There's
maybe people watching right now wondering, what can we do?
Yes, and I get literally messages, and every week somebody's contacting
How do
me.
they get in touch with you, Linda?
So on Facebook, they can go to my Facebook page,
And how do you spell your last name?
Toscano.
And
Right.
we'll have that information.
We'll have all that information.
on that. Yeah, on our links.
But I just love what you do in the community, because it can't be easy, because you're going out there doing what you do with real estate, which demands so much of your time.
You're a superwoman.
Oh, you're
yeah,
very
you're like
sweet.
Wonder Woman.
You even look like Wonder
very
Woman.
sweet.
Yeah,
You look
exactly.
like
I
Wonder
loved
Woman.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
she was
get your
awesome.
bracelets.
Exactly. Get the bracelets out there. An updated version of Wonder Woman starring Linda Toscano. And
Thank God
as long as
for
I can
you,
do the voiceover
Linda.
work for the trailers.
Thank God for you. Because
You're very
it
sweet.
takes just one person in your town and one person in someone else's town, and
The domino
you know,
effect.
just to do this.
I
so
mean,
you will inspire
and
people.
it can be done. I think if there's one thing that I tell people, because I go to these meetings and I meet with older people and younger people, and I love to be a resource for especially people with younger children, because that's like the worst time. You don't know what's happening with them. But even the older generations that are like, we're 80, like, and our kid still lives at home, and you can do it. I mean, it's, of course you need some money. I mean, but like you can have your own house become a CRS, is what they call them. And you just have to work with the right company. Sarah Tuxis is wonderful. And they have a lot of these, they have a lot of residential homes. This is, but for the day programs, that's something that I don't know. That's harder, I think, in the way. I don't know. I don't know how I was able to do it. I didn't know I could do it. I just did it.
1 foot.
It's amazing what we could do when our
call.
back is up against the wall.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're a great contact source for people that might be watching and listening right now saying, what do I do?
Sure. Yeah.
What does CRS stand for? What's that?
You caught me.
So-
Residential something. You see. You
Okay.
got me. They're gonna.
But
They're
is
gonna
that-
watch.
That's our trivia question
Is
for
that
today.
like nationwide? Do you think?
I know
Is that-
it's what DDS is calling my house that I'm going to be doing
I
for
see.
Gavin.
It falls under that category.
Yeah, it's something residential. I can't believe I because they're going to say to me, Linda, I can't believe you didn't.
But that falls under like the umbrella of Sarah.
Well, it's the DDS like type of housing. So there's a CRS and there's something else. It's not like a group home, but it's something like where you have a house and like whether it's parent owned or 3 participants or the families get together, and then Sarah Tuxis or another nonprofit that's licensed runs the program, 24-hour care,
Right.
if that's what they need, whether it's overnight sleeping or day, whatever it is.
Right.
So, but it has to be approved by DDS, and in my case, you have to go through the ethics commission and all the things
Of
because I
course.
own the house and all. But yeah, that's different from the day program. So
But Linda, thank you so much for being a part of What's Good with John and
Yes,
Joyce. Now,
thank
where are you
you.
currently working?
I work at Coldwell Banker and out of the Guilford office
Right.
at 19
That's
Boston
Guilford,
Street.
Connecticut. And do you travel outside of the area? You're primarily
Oh
focused
yeah,
in
for
this
sure.
area?
I do like
Okay.
the host shoreline. Yep.
That's fantastic. But we appreciate you, appreciate your friendship, all these years, and just appreciate all you do to help those who really, are sometimes forgotten. And everybody wants to be seen.
Yes, thank you for
Right?
getting that message out.
I think that's a
really
great
appreciate
message.
that. Yeah.
So thank you so much for tuning in to What's Good with John and Joyce. Subscribe on YouTube. It's free. Like it, share it with everybody you know in the universe who needs inspiring, upbeat, positive stories like the one we just heard. I'm John Cadillac Seville from iHeartRadio and John Seville Entertainment. And who are you again?
I am Joyce Logan that's going to tell everyone, relax your shoulders, take a deep breath, and all is well.
Absolutely. And many, many blessings for you and your family.
Bye.
Until
for
next
now.
time. Bye. Hey, I heard you got engaged. Congratulations. Now it's time to book the DJ. And that's where we come in. I'm John Cadillac Seville with John Seville Entertainment, Wedding Wire, and the Knot 2026 Couples Choice Awards winner. You can call me directly if you like at 203-988-0658. We'll set up your free consultation. Or go to johncaddyman.com. That's 203-988-0658 or johncaddyman.com. We offer excellence, peace of mind, and a great time for all. John Seville Entertainment, a name you know and can trust.